Oh man, the newest Clone Wars is so good. Like, where was this the rest of the season? Holy crap, there's so much jam-packed into this. I mean, just from the second it even starts up, you get that somber Ahsoka music with the Lucasfilm Limited, LTD Limited production. And then it swells up with, instead of the Clone Wars theme, the Star Wars theme. And then, I mean, just from there, it just never stops. It is non-stop. It just keeps going. And wow, man, where was this the rest of the season? We start off with even the opening. There is all kinds of Easter eggs and all kinds of things that are just jam-packed into this thing, and it is incredible. The opening shot snaps us right into the climax of the Outer Rim sieges led by General Grievous. The Jedi Council dispatches its best generals to respond, and we aren't even 60 seconds into the episode yet. There's just a ton of stuff that we get, a ton of information in the first minute, because this puts everything in motion for Order 66. We see Depa and Kanan, at this time in the timeline known as Caleb Dune. They're dispatched. Plo Koon is sent to Cato Nemoidia, and Aayla Secura on Felucia as we see her in her final moments in Revenge of the Sith. And last but not least, Anakin and Obi-Wan in their final battle together in the Clone Wars. And it has a very reminiscent feel to the Clone Wars movie where it all began. This might be the most cinematic looking, feeling Clone Wars animated episode of anything I have ever seen. It is so nice to see epic scale battles in this show again, and I love the banter between Anakin and Obi-Wan here. Anakin plays the cocky chosen one card and is super relaxed while Obi-Wan stressed the hell out. And it's funny, Anakin comes in very casually and takes down the tactical battle droid and ambushes the separatist. And after the battle, Anakin and Obi-Wan receive a transmission from quote-unquote Fulcrum, and they think it's Saw Gerrera reporting on the Siege of Onderon, but come to find out it's Ahsoka. And it's an awesome little Easter egg there for Rebels and a callback to the Onderon arc in Season 5 of the Clone Wars, all at the same time. And seeing Anakin and Ahsoka meet up for the first time, this was very impactful. There's a few seconds of silence, of awkward silence, that really sells the whole scene. And Ahsoka's a little cold with Anakin at first. She's very reluctant to interact with him like they used to, and Anakin is struggling with it. I also love how R2-D2 ran straight up to Ahsoka like a small child or a pet that hasn't seen you in a long time. And we also learned that Bo-Katan has been tracking Maul's activity with Crimson Dawn, and she seeks to get even with him and take back Mandalore. The problem is, Bo-Katan doesn't have enough arms to take Mandalore on her own, so she and Ahsoka reach out to the Republic for aid, which is something they can't do since Satine kept Mandalore neutral in the war, and also Obi-Wan mentions that there are treaties that are 100 years old and that they can't break them. And I almost wonder if this is referring to when the Jedi were at war with the Mandalorians, but I'm not sure how that all stacks up within the timeline. But anyhow, Anakin, Rex, and the 501st find a loophole in that if Rex is promoted to commander and divides the 501st in half, they technically wouldn't be breaking any laws. And I found this part to be a bit confusing, but either way, Anakin reunites Ahsoka with the troopers, and they are all decked out in new helmets that have Ahsoka markings on their paint. And right as this happens, they're interrupted and an alarm sounds off, and their Republic cruiser prepares for hyperspace. Obi-Wan runs in and informs them that General Grievous has attacked Coruscant, and the episode is taking place literally an hour before Revenge of the Sith even starts. And as soon as Anakin and Obi-Wan get there, the events of Revenge of the Sith are going to be in motion. And there's a cool nod to the old Clone Wars series from 2003, the 2D one, because Anakin, he asks Obi-Wan if the Chancellor is safe, and Obi-Wan tells him that Shaak-Ti has been tasked with protecting him, but Mace Windu loses contact with her. And it's at least somewhat of a 2003 Clone Wars nod. It aligns with what happens in that show, but it also kind of lines up with the deleted scene that is in Revenge of the Sith, where Shaak-Ti is on the invisible hand when Anakin and Obi-Wan get there, and Grievous kills her in front of them. But then again, she dies in the Force Unleashed, and so it gets a little bit muddy, and that's a story for another time. But anyhow, Anakin gives Ahsoka her old lightsabers back before he leaves, and he tells her that he took care of them. And in pure Anakin fashion, he kind of brags that he made him even better by changing the green crystals to blue, more his style. And I love that. You know, just the idea of Anakin holding on to the lightsabers of his former apprentice, it parallels brilliantly with how Obi-Wan is about to do that exact same thing with Anakin's lightsaber here soon. And I'm sure Obi-Wan even modifies Anakin's lightsaber a bit, like Anakin does to Ahsoka's. If you look at Anakin's hilt in episode 3, and then when it gets handed to Luke, there's some subtle changes. And this could be me looking a little too much into it, but I thought it was an awesome little parallel there. And it's Anakin and Ahsoka's last moment together before they duel in Rebels. So there's a lot of there's a lot of weight to this scene. And Anakin even calls Ahsoka a friend before they leave, and at what seems to be on good terms. It's really a beautiful moment. I also enjoyed the bit where Ahsoka kind of dismisses the Battle of Coruscant to be just a bunch of bull. People on Coruscant need us, says Obi-Wan. The Chancellor needs you, corrects Ahsoka. She accuses the Jedi of playing politics, and we get to see how the Jedi have kind of lost their way at the height of their powers through the eyes of Ahsoka, making her arc another layer in the overall story of the Skywalker saga. And after this, it just makes me think of everything in a whole new light. So in the next scene, we see one of those classic overhead cruiser shots that Star Wars is famous for, and the Mandalorians and the 501st charge toward Mandalore. In the next scene, we get a slew of cameos, a ton of them. We go down on the planet, and we're back with Almec, and he's talking to Gar Saxon, who is from Star Wars Rebels, and Rook Kast from from what I know her from, which is the Darth Maul son of Dathomir comics, and then Ursa Wren, who is Sabine's mother. And as Ahsoka and Bo-Katan near the surface, Maul's forces begin to fire on their ships. And we get some of that, a classic Ahsoka Rex banter as they're going along, and we get some kick-ass lightsaber combat from Ahsoka. Once they land on the ground, Bo-Katan and Ahsoka split up. Bo-Katan heads to confront Almec, and Ahsoka heads for the sewers to look for Gar Saxon. Bo-Katan and Almec actually fight, which surprised me. I knew he was a shady politician, but to see him in Mando armor and fighting was pretty crazy. He gets taken down pretty easily though. Almec tells Bo-Katan that Ahsoka has walked into a trap, and all of Ahsoka's men in the next scene, they're all split up and they're being taken out super quick and quietly. And then it's down to just Ahsoka by herself, and she's completely surrounded. Then we see a shadowy figure walking out of the tunnels, and you hear his mechanical footsteps. And then out of the shadows, you see it's Darth Maul. I was expecting Kenobi, he says to Ahsoka. Why are you here? And then the episode ends on that cliffhanger. And I am so ready for this Friday. I haven't been this excited about a Star Wars TV show in a long, long time. For me, this episode perfectly encapsulates that eerie feeling that something serious is about to happen, something bigger than everybody, a major change on the horizon. And that's the feeling that Revenge of the Sith gives me when I watch it. And I really think that you could watch this arc and go straight into Revenge of the Sith, and it would work together perfectly. The synergy between these two it's amazing, and I cannot praise it enough. But I would love to know what you think. Let me know. I'll talk to you next Friday, and take it easy.